Right now, you are not sick. And if that changed tonight, you already know exactly what would happen. You would open a cupboard, you would swallow something small and white, you would look something up, and a stranger who has never met you would tell you what it is. You would not be afraid. But for almost all of human history, getting sick was not an inconvenience. It was a verdict. A cut on your hand could kill you. A tooth could kill you. A broken leg could kill you, slowly, over weeks, while you watched it happen. There was no cupboard, there was nobody to call, there was only your body, and whatever the people around you decided to do about it. So what actually happened? When a person in that world woke up burning with fever, or snapped a bone, or felt a tooth turn against them, what did anybody do? Here's the thing, they were not helpless. Thousands of years before the first hospital, before the first doctor, before anybody had a word for infection, people were already fighting back, and they fought back in 4 different ways. All 4 are still in the ground. Start with the simplest weapon there is, your mouth. Now put yourself on a cold hillside with a fever climb. Your head is pounding, your gut is cramping, and there is nothing to chew but what grows near you. So you chew. And here's what nobody expects. Some of it works. In a cave called El Cidrón in northern Spain, there are Neanderthal teeth roughly 48,000 years old with hardened plaque still stuck to them. In 2017, a team led by the microbiologist Laura Weyrich pulled DNA out of that plaque. When one of those individuals had an abscess rotting in his jaw and a gut parasite that causes severe diarrhea. And in his plaque, they found poplar. Poplar bark contains salicylic acid. That is the active ingredient in aspirin. Beside it sat penicillium, the mold we get penicillin from, a painkiller and an antibiotic, in one sick man's mouth 48,000 years ago. A frozen man came out of an alpine glacier, dead for roughly 5,300 years, carrying lumps of birch polypore fungus threaded onto leather strips. His gut was full of whipworm eggs. Researchers think that was the point. This wasn't a snack, this was a dose. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because there is a lot more of this coming. Bark buys you time. It does not fix a shattered leg. So here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. They cut. In Liang Tabo Cave, in East Kalimantan on the island of Borneo, archaeologists uncovered a young person buried at least 31,000 years ago. The lower third of the left leg was gone. Not snapped, not bitten off. The bone ended in a clean healed stump, the 2 shin bones sealed over smoothly, with none of the splintering and accident leaves. Somebody took that leg off with a blade, probably when this person was a child, and the bone kept growing for another 6 to 9 years. They amputated a child's leg in a rainforest, and the child lived. Think about that for a second. To pull that off, you have to cut without them bleeding out, keep the wound from going septic in a jungle, and nurse them through months of healing. That is not luck. Roughly 7,000 years ago, at Ensisheim in eastern France, a man of about 50 was buried with 2 holes cut in his skull. Now hold your own head still and picture somebody grinding through it with a sharpened stone while you are awake. The edges of both holes are rounded and filled with new bone. He survived them. And here's the part nobody talks about. That skull has no fracture, no disease. Nothing explains why anyone opened it. They had drugs and they had surgery. So what actually finished most of them off? Your teeth. A rotten tooth is not just pain. The pulp dies, the infection escapes through the root into the jaw, and from the jaw into the blood. That is how a toothache becomes a funeral. And prehistoric mouths were full of rot, because grit from stone-ground grains scoured enamel to nothing. At Riparo Fredian, a rock shelter in northern Italy, a skeleton about 13,000 years old has 2 upper front teeth, each bored down into the pulp chamber. Under a microscope, the walls inside those holes carry horizontal scratches, the marks of a small tool twisted by hand. And packed into both holes, and nowhere else on the teeth, is bitumen mixed with plant fibers. Somebody scraped out the dead tissue and filled the cavity. That is a filling, 13,000 years ago. And it was not a one-off. At Mehrgarh in Pakistan, a graveyard roughly 9,000 years old holds 9 adults with 11 drilled molars between them. The holes are neat circles. Whoever made them used a flint-tipped bow drill, the same tool those people used on beads. The bead-maker was the dentist. Now sit on that ground and open your mouth with nothing to dull it, while somebody you have known all your life leans in with a spinning stone. So far, every one of these is something done to a body. Here's the 4th answer, and it involves no treatment at all. Somebody stayed. In Shanidar Cave, in the Zagros Mountains of northern Iraq, lies a Neanderthal man who died roughly 45,000 years ago. His skeleton reads like a list of endings. His right arm had withered, and the lower half of it was gone. A blow to the left side of his face had crushed the eye socket. Bony growths had sealed both ear canals, which means he was profoundly deaf. His joints were wrecked, and every one of those injuries had healed. He died somewhere between 35 and 45. A deaf, half-blind, one-armed man does not last a week alone out there. He lasted years, and he is not alone. At Windover over pond in Florida, roughly 7,300 years ago, a boy born with spina bifida lived to about 15. His legs could never have carried him, somebody else did. At Man Bac in northern Vietnam, a fused spine paralyzed a young man from about the age of 12. He lived another decade lying down. His bones show no pressure sores. Now, put yourself on that floor beside him. You lift, you turn, you clean, you feed, and tomorrow you do it again. For 10 years. This wasn't kindness. This was a system. If you're curious whether those people even had names for each other, I made a whole video about that on this channel. It's worth a look if you haven't seen it. And here's what ties all four together. Not one of them is a cure. The bark dulls the pain, it does not kill the infection. The knife saves the leg and takes the leg. The drill empties the tooth, and the tooth is still dead. Every single one of those four answers is somebody buying time for a body that has to heal itself. That is all medicine was for 200,000 years. A holding action run by people who refused to walk away. So here's the full picture. They chewed bark that turned out to be aspirin. They cut a child's leg off and kept the child. They drilled a tooth and packed the hole. And when none of it worked, somebody picked the person up and carried them anyway. And now, look at you. There is a small box somewhere in your home, and it holds more medicine than every healer who ever lived could have made. You swallow it dry in 3 seconds walking. You do not thank anyone. You do not even read the label. Nobody has ever had to carry you. They could not cure you, so they simply refused to leave. So when ancient humans got sick, somebody treated them, and somebody stayed. Before we go on, what is the oldest remedy anybody in your family still swears by? Put it in the comments. I read them. But all four of those answers share one problem. Somebody knew which bark, which mold, where to cut. And they knew it long before schools, long before books, long before a word of it could be written down. At Hilazon Takhtet, a cave in northern Israel, archaeologists opened a grave cut into bedrock 12,000 years ago. Inside lay a small, elderly, disabled woman, packed around with 50 complete tortoise shells, an eagle's wing bone, and a human foot that was not hers. Researchers think she was a healer. Now stand at the edge of that grave. 50 shells, an eagle, and everything she actually knew, and not one word of it. It went into the ground with her, and this is where it gets genuinely strange. Strip away every label, every dosage, and every printed word you have been handed, and you hit the oldest problem there is. How do you keep something after the person who knew it is gone? No paper, no alphabet, no word for the thing you want to keep. People solved it 5,000 years ago in one hot river valley. 3 explanations get offered, and the clay kills all 3. Because thousands of the oldest tablets on Earth came out of that valley, and most of them do not even contain a verb. So before you go, watch that one next. It is on the screen right now, because the woman in that grave took everything she knew with her, and so did everybody before her. Writing was the first time somebody did not have to.